Welcome to Knockhill Racing Circuit for the Scottish Fiesta and Hot Hatch Championship. Over to you, Duncan, for Race 1 commentary.
Thank you very much, Fiona Wallace. As you can see, Fiona bearing the elements outside. You would never imagine it was cold the way that she's wrapped up today at Knockhill. And you join us for the Fiesta Hot Hatch Championship, the SMTE Fiesta and Hot Hatch Championship, with the BMW Compact Cups if they fancy it. No BMWs, but a couple of Hot Hatch entrants for this, the last round. Chris Milford has entered as a Hot Hatch contender. He's in a Fiesta ST, although it's quite a trick one. It's got a bit of a different diff. Whether the diff is any better for Knockhill or whether it's not, we shall find out along the duration of this race. But Chris has entered as the Hot Hatch. There's a couple of guests in there as well. We've got Ryan Stirling, Martin Ramsey and Adam Morrison in his Mini Cooper out there. The man on pole position though, that was Mark Geraghty, or is Mark Geraghty I should say. Mark has been a bit in and out of racing this year. Last year's Celtic Speed Mini Cooper Cup champion decided to take a year out of racing, and he's decided to just cherry pick races that he's wanted to do, and he's actually found a very good home doing the odd event in the Fiesta ST Championship, and he enjoys it. There could be things coming though, because he's also dual entered this weekend for the minis, but he's on pole. He's alongside Wayne Macaulay, car number 1. We've got Blair Murdoch and Peter Cruikshank on the second row of the grid with Ryan Stirling and Chris Milford. The 1 minute board goes out. As you can see, tricky conditions here at Knockhill Racing Circuit. This is race number 1 in the weekend. A wet track, and the weather forecast looks like it's going to deteriorate through the course of race day. So this could be the best conditions that we get today. As the 30-second board goes out, we will then draw our eyes up after the 5-second board towards the Beatson's Building Supply Bridge there, and right in the middle of it, next to the word Alloa, is where the red lights will start to come on. There's also the repeaters on the start gantry, and here we go. We've got 3 sets, 4. We get a full complement of lights now. Who's going to get a jump down towards the first corner? Will it be Macaulay or will it be Geraghty? Away they go, and everybody makes a pretty clean start, which is the most important thing. And down towards the first corner they come, and Macaulay overhauls Geraghty straight away in towards Duffy's Dip there. As you go over the crest, Macaulay, the man who wrapped up the Hot Hatch Championship, the Fiesta Hot Hatch Championship at the last meeting, is already... Oh, and that was somebody going straight on there. Somebody to the left. The shot was that Mark Geraghty, because there's a big gap behind Wayne Macaulay, and Mark Geraghty has gone off at the second corner, which is something very, very unusual. We're on board with Russell Morgan just now, and I got to say, that's very unlike Mark. Was he pushed, or was it a failure, or did he just slither off in these tricky conditions? We shall find out, I would imagine, as we go on. But the spray kicked up by the Fiestas and the Mini that is out there just now. Headlights on. If you've got 2, they're on. These guys both got 1 headlight each. Blair Murdoch comes through. He's got one side working, and Chris Milford, well, he's got the opposite side working. So Milford in a car that has got the special diff in it, and Chris was actually saying he doesn't know if it's an advantage or not. But up he comes up the main straight over the crest of the hill to chalk off the first lap. That looks like Mark Geraghty at the very, very back. So he has managed to get himself out of the gravel trap down there at McIntyre's. But that's a very strange thing to have happened for that man. He's a very experienced, fast man who knows how to race in the wet conditions. As we go on board with Russell Morgan, still using oceans of gearboard, a little bit of turning oversteer there. He corrects that and collects that on his way through the corner, and has a quick glance in the mirror as Blair Murdoch, as ever, sideways through the chicane. See these guys slithering up the back straight as we go right back into the depths of the field. Lorne Murray going through. It's been a good campaign for Lorne this year. Stephen Wardwith right behind him, the Mini Cooper of Adam Morrison, as we now pick up Wayne Macaulay, who wrapped up the championship at the previous meeting, so pressure completely off this weekend for Wayne Macaulay as he comes in. But look at this behind him. Russell Morgan can see battling behind him Peter Cruikshank, and trying to go the long way round is Ryan Stirling. And isn't it great to see that man back as well? Quite a few mechanical woes at the last meeting. He's got a good cutback on Peter Cruikshank here, side by side up the main straight over the crest of the hill. Stirling's on the inside, and it looks like that is going to be done and dusted. Yes, he gets past Cruikshank. He surely can't go around the outside of Russell Morgan as we go back on board with Russell. Just listening to the throttle trace as he goes through. Leslie's, is leaving space up inside, goes through, comes Ryan Stirling. Oh, and a big bang up their rear from Peter Cruikshank. Stirling makes a mistake as well. Cruikshank takes 2 places with one pretty robust manoeuvre, then just decides to not turn left at the top of the chicane. Has he broken the car? Yes, he has broken the car. Look at that. front left wheel damage for Peter Cruikshank. That was a sizable crash or impact that he had with Russell going through McIntyre. You can see how much Russell's head manoeuvred or moved in that car. So yeah, great shame for Peter Cruikshank. That will be the reason the car neglected to turn left at the chicane. Front left wheel was not really attached to very much on the car. So Peter Cruikshank rules himself out of the race. Now I think Mark Geraghty's got a problem because the car is so far back and off the pace. He went off at turn 2 or turn 3. I wonder if he's maybe picked up the dreaded ABS fault, or could it be the power steering fault on one of these cars? They have sometimes reared an ugly head, a little issue with the cars. And it's not like him to be so far off the pace. Restart, let's see who gets it up towards the lights. The pace cars down. Let's listen to them as they come up the main straight. All the Fiestas passing us. And on to the race start we go. All the cars sounding pretty good there. Great to see the Mini out there as well, having a bit of fun. Adam Morrison in his Mini Cooper entered as a guest. So we were on board just a minute ago with Russell Morgan, and we go back on board with Russell Morgan. That's almost queued up by us there. That was perfect timing. Down a gear. Turns it in, following Ryan Stirling. Ryan made a very good overtaking manoeuvre, then just unfortunately ran wide through the apex of the corner, got onto the curb. Looks like he put one wheel in the gravel, and that pulled him off into the gravel. But because Russell got such a large hit up the back by Peter Cruikshank, Russell then couldn't get back past Ryan and then up to the chicane when Peter Cruikshank decided that his car was broken and he had to head straight on. That really did benefit Ryan Stirling, so Ryan will be absolutely delighted with that one. He comes into the hairpin in 4th place there, the white car behind Chris Milford, and a big gap back to Morgan as they come in. And then it's Martin Ramsey, car number 34, in the orange car as these guys come through the hairpin. A little bit wide for Russell Morgan mid-apex there, but Martin Ramsey not close enough to capitalise on that as up the main straight we go on board with Russell Morgan. Grabs 4th gear. Does he have a little look in the mirror as he goes under the bridge? No, he does something with his head there, but onto the brake, he picks his braking point, he goes over the top of Duffus in 4th gear there. That's quite interesting. 4th gear through the left-hander, brakes, and then goes down a gear for McIntyre. Turn 3, turns it in, bit of oversteer correction in the heart of the corner. Good bit of driving that, and has to hold it flat down through Butchers. You cannot lift once you're committed to going into Butchers there in a front-wheel drive car, the corner before the chicane. If you have a lift, we will see in the gravel trap, maybe upside down, you cannot lift. The famous lift-off oversteer as Adam Morrison decides to take a fair chunk of gravel up the back straight there. The famous lift-off oversteer has caught a lot of people out, and Mark Geraghty, a sorry sight at the back for car number 67, who qualified on pole position, finds himself touring at the back with some sort of, is it intermitting problem? It's just a bit of a disaster for him as the guys all come through. Stuart Scott, car number 3, who was involved in all sorts of fun and games at the previous reverse direction meeting, you may recall, with Lorne Murray just behind him up the main straight. But here is the current man of the moment, not just the moment as well. In this modern era of Fiesta racing, nobody has had a handle on Wayne Macaulay. He has been absolutely dominant, going back to the days of Ian Forrest and Alan Keith when it was the Mark II XR2s. They were the dominant force then. This man has taken the charge up from the modern era, and Wayne Macaulay really does drive these cars extremely well, and he's very much at home in a Fiesta ST as we go back on board with Russell Morgan. Turns in through Clark's, catches up quite handsomely on Ryan Stirling there on the way into the corner. But then look at that, Ryan Stirling, bit of a later entry, better racing through the corner, gets the power on and can drive away from Russell on the way around towards the hairpin. And then Russell will try and catch it all back up on the brakes, or try and catch some of it. But it just shows you there, the old racing analogy. The slow in, fast out does work to a certain extent, as we see Martin Ramsey doing a bit of rallycross through the apex of the hairpin in the distance there. The orange car just about to come through your shot, and that was right in front of Stuart Scott, and Stuart Scott still with Lorne Murray right behind him. Looking back from the exit of turn 3 through turn 1 and 2, that's Leslie's, that tricky left-hander of Leslie's, and there's Chris Milford, car number 51, entered into the Hot Hats Championship has Chris, and Chris is one of the Knockhill instructors. It's great to see him out there racing. He does a lot of laps around this circuit in the passenger seat, I may add, but still knows his way around the circuit very, very well. Trying to avoid the exit curbs there as much as they can. These guys possibly a little bit worried about losing traction. Somebody losing traction was Stuart Scott there. Stuart come through pretty much in a beautiful little two-wheel drift over the crest of the hill. as we pick back up with those guys, Martin Ramsey, Stuart Scott and Lorne Murray, as they head towards the hairpin. We're talking about Chris Milford a minute ago. He currently a 66-second lap for Chris Milford, 66.2. Will he get any faster than that? Well, the fastest lap is a 64.3 just now for Wayne Macaulay. The man is absolutely in another league. 2 seconds a lap faster than anybody else out there. So he's managed to get the maximum amount of grip out of his car setup and tyres. And Wayne Macaulay in this morning race for the SMTA Fiesta and Hot Hatch Championship with the BMWs. Wayne Macaulay, car number 1, starting to run away into the distance further and further. On board with Russell Morgan as we leave McIntyre's. He goes down Butcher's, little correction there. All it takes is a tiny little feather in the throttle and the back end starts to go a little bit wayward. Let's see what he does at Clark's this time. Grabs a gear up the back straight, he'll have a downshift. Nice and wide into Clark's. He turns in quite early again and Ryan Stirling would just go off board there. Ryan Stirling with a later turn in seems to get the car turned through the corner and can accelerate harder out of it as they go round towards the hairpin. Let's see what the gap is as they come back into view. Yeah, the gap's extended again there between 33 and 37 as Ryan leaves a gap up the inside. That was more of a, I've got to say, Russell, credit where it's due, but that was a lunge rather than a manoeuvre. That was happening whether Ryan Stirling was going to leave you a little bit of room or not. Stirling goes back on the inside as we close our eyes and hope for the best as we go over the crest of the hill side by side, heading towards Duffus Dip. Here we go. Morgan has decided just to breathe out the throttle pedal and let Stirling back past there. A bit of a correction over the crest of the hill there. A set of brake lights going on just as they went out of view. Let's hope they both come back into view at McIntyre's. Yes, they do. So Russell Morgan's passed Ryan Stirling once in the Giraffe Blinds car. Can he do it again to get that position away from him? They're going to have to watch because Martin Ramsey now starting to catch him quite quickly in that orange number 34. He's pulled away from Stuart Scott, who in turn looks to be holding Lorne Murray up in that number 5 car. As we come through Clark Corner, in the background there you would get a view of Edinburgh and the Forth Road bridges. Unfortunately, today is not a day for sightseeing in Scotland, never mind Knockhill. Such are the weather conditions, and as I said earlier on, they are set to deteriorate through the course of the day. So the spectators that are here, very hardy of them, and the drivers, well, they better make sure those wipers are working, and also the inside of the windows won't steam up. That's something that does catch a lot of these guys out in the saloon cars. As we cross the line to do another lap in the books here at Knockhill Racing Circuit, the final SMRC race meeting of the year, and this the first of 2 races for the Fiesta Hot Hatch Championship. As we see them go over the crest of Duffus, that's Milford chasing Macaulay. Oh no, it's Milford chasing Murdoch. It's the other M as they go through just ahead of us. And it looks now like Martin Ramsey has gone as well. He's going to have to settle for the position he's in, because ahead of him, these 2 guys have pulled away, and once again on board with Russell Morgan through Clark Corner. Bit of understeer through the apex and oversteer as he lifts off the gas to try and correct that understeer. And look at Ryan Stirling, just gets smaller and smaller and smaller up the road. Russell checking his mirrors, or having a little shake of the head there into the hairpin. Extremely brave on the brakes is Russell Morgan. Gets the car turned in. Both drivers get their apex this time, and up the hill we go. We're getting towards the business end of the race now. It's really going to be now or never for these guys, as Wayne Macaulay does a beautiful drift through the apex of Duffus Dip, down the hill through Leslie's. That was poetry in motion from Macaulay, as we wait a day and an age for the next guys to come through. It's Blair Murdoch, then Chris Milford, and behind those 2 guys, the next car, well, we're going to stay with these 2, but the next one should be Ryan Stirling, then Russell Morgan. Whoa, big sideways very late in the race for Blair Murdoch, and that wouldn't have been meant, because right behind him now has come Chris Milford, and off goes Martin Ramsey. Oh, disaster for Martin Ramsey in car 34. Right at the end of the race, he throws away that position, which was 6 behind Russell Morgan, and that's an absolute disaster for him, as we caught a quick glimpse of Wayne Macaulay on his last lap coming in towards the hairpin, and all he's got to do is get through, short shift, shimmy up a few gears and take another win for Wayne Macaulay. In the background we see Blair Murdoch fending off Chris Milford, and Ryan Stirling's going to hold Russell Morgan at bay as they come through the hairpin. But what a shame for Martin Ramsey, who threw away that position just behind them, and he will be kicking himself with that one. But everybody crossing the line now. Stuart Scott will come home in 6th place ahead of Lorne Murray, And then we get Stephen Ward, Martin Ramsey does recover, Aidan Ward and Adam Morrison. Mark Geraghty did retire from that race, unfortunately, the pole man. He and Peter Cruikshank both out of it, but I'm pretty sure Geraghty and Cruikshank will both be back for race number 2. Let's hand down into the pit lane for some post-race interviews with Fiona and find out what the drivers thought of race number 1.
Well done, Wayne, and that was a quick race for you. I think you were 1.7 seconds quicker than the guys behind at one point.
Yeah, I can't believe it was actually that fast, but the car was absolutely phenomenal there in the wet. I mean, that's probably the best I've ever had an ST handle in the wet as well, so well chuffed with that. So.
What are the conditions like out there? Is it quite greasy or is it wet?
It's slidey in a few places, but some of the corners almost feel like a dry. When you're braking, you can hear a screeching coming from the tyre, so it's drying up, so get close to the dry, yeah.
Good, well, it's meant to be really heavy rain later on, so we'll see what you can do.
Oh well, it'll be wet later then.
Okay, well, congratulations to our champion, and hopefully see you out next year.
Thanks very much, cheers.
Well done, Blair. P2, bit of pressure there from Chris Milford.
Yeah, Chris gave me plenty of pressure, and I was just really holding back a wee bit because it was so tiptoey out there. The track was very greasy and very easy to make a mistake. There was a few laps at McIntyre's I was totally sideways, and he got a wee bit close to me, so I was just managing the gap, but I knew Wayne was too far away really to catch him. And
when the safety car restart happened, did you get caught out a little bit?
No, I never get caught out. I just totally messed up the hairpin in the restart. Wayne put the foot down, going along the back straight, went into second, and I just lost a bit of grip coming through the hairpin, and he got a good lead then.
Well, it's meant to rain later on, so hopefully that'll add some spice to the racing.
Yeah, it might make the track less greasy. Hope so.
Well, best of luck for race 2.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well done, Ryan. P3 there. Bit of a lunge from Russell behind you.
Yeah, he was a very late break move, I must admit, but to be fair, he is a gentleman and he gave me enough room in the straight, so I was enough to kind of get past him again and pedal on. The car has got tremendous straight line speed, it just really sucks in the corners at the moment. Set up for the wet and greasing conditions is a hellish at the moment, so definitely try and work on that, because I'm pretty sure Russ will be knocking on the door, plus obviously Mark and Peter as well in this next race, so but I'm looking forward to it.
So a few changes for race 2?
Yeah, I think I need to kind of check my wallet and see if I can spend some more money on tyres as well. But yeah, generally I think the car's a little bit too stiff still, so I think I need to soften up and be brave for the next run. So good.
Well done.
Thank you. Cheers.
So here with Chris Milford, and I believe you are our new hot hatch champion.
I think everyone's going to be taking a bit of a joke about it because I entered it just for a bit of fun, but yeah, it's great just having my name on a bit of paperwork and a trophy to come away with it as well, so it's all good fun.
So how many races have you done this season?
Just the one.
Just the one, and you're now our champion?
Yeah, right place, right time, I guess.
Did you have fun out there though?
Yeah, it's really tricky. It's good dicing with Blair. He's a quick driver. I think the car's just a little bit better. I'm running something a bit different. Just getting my feet back into it and having a bit of fun, like I said. It's all good.
Well, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, okay.
Well, thanks
very
very
much. Cheers, thank you.
I'll hand back to you, Duncan, for race 2 of the Fiesta Hot Hatch Championship here at Knockhill Racing Circuit.
Well, thank you very much, Fiona. Yeah, you hand back to me, and well, she did warn us, and she being Fiona was correct. Weather conditions are set to deteriorate, and haven't they just? We're in what we could class as a damp track earlier on, but we now have a full Monty wet track out there. The full Buna wet weather is, well, it's a good thing, and it's also a bad thing. It brings some interesting racing in some classes, but it seems to bring the same formula in this class. It seems to bring a Wayne Macaulay victory. Wet, dry, no matter what, he is there and running away at the front. 1.7 seconds faster than anybody in the last race. 13 seconds was his winning margin. It's the last race of the year for these guys. If they've got anything to do here, they need to try and lay it on the line and see if they can catch up with the rampant Wayne Macaulay, who's just tearing this championship a new one all the way. So tricky weather conditions for not just the drivers, for our camera guys out there as well, and the spectators, so spare a little thought for them. They're doing a fabulous job in these weather conditions, trying to shelter themselves and their equipment from what I can only describe as driving rain. And there's a good pun in there, because look at the cars driving around the circuit just now. Let's see who gets the jump down towards Duffy's Dip in this one. Mark Ramsey just comes through with a shot at Clark Corner there. And unfortunately, we never heard from Martin after the race here, but it would have been good to know exactly what caused him to leave the road. I can only imagine that happened at the top of Duffy's Dip, and then he kind of gathered it up going through Leslie's. Now, there's a nice camera shot. That's something we haven't seen this year. That is a raised platform coming in towards the hairpin, so the cars have exited Clark's. They're going through Hislops just now. Then there's a little straight bit before they start braking for the hairpin, and the last corner, Taylor's Turn as it's called, one of the most important corners on the circuit to get yourself back through and up that main straight. So that's a very interesting camera angle that the guys from Edinburgh College are giving us there. And look at the pretty patterns on the track as well. You can see just how much water these cars clear with their tyres. Mark Geraghty goes through. We still haven't found out exactly what the problem was, but I'm pretty sure we're going to see Mark Geraghty coming back through the pack in this one. That first race for him, an absolute disaster. Qualified on pole position, 3 corners later, straight on at McIntyre's, and it just never happened after that, and eventually causing Mark to retire. So he is a Celtic Speed Mini Cooper champion. He still is the current champion until later on today when somebody else takes that crown from him. But Mark is a man who doesn't really throw cars into scenery, and let's see what he does next year. Could be a big announcement about Mark maybe coming back for a full-time attack in a championship. Peter Cruikshank's also had that car fixed by Paul Curtis, PCR, Paul Curtis Racing. The guys up there have done a fabulous job, because that whole front left corner was ripped off the car, the back bumper was off it. So credit to Paul Curtis and his band of mechanics. Out goes the 1 minute board. And now I think we need to get ourselves ready. Brace yourself if you're at Duffy's Dip, because the SMTA Fiesta Hot Hatch Championship guys are about to come thundering down towards you. Will it be another Wayne Macaulay benefit? Or is anybody, has Milford, Geraghty, Stirling, Cruikshank, has anybody got enough to try and get in about that number 1 car? Tension rises when they're in the car just now. The drivers will have their foot on the clutch pedal. It will be engaged in first gear, and they'll just be trying to hold a nice, steady, constant, low RPM. Too much RPM and you will spin those wheels off the line, and that will get you engulfed by the pack down towards first corner. So here we go. The 5 second board goes out. We look for the lights on the bridge. Full complement of lights now, and out they go down towards Duffy's Dip. A quick wave of a yellow flag, so somebody must have bogged that down. Peter Cruikshank stalls it at the very back. He doesn't get going, but it's Wayne Macaulay from Milford and Murdoch as they go down towards Duffy's Dip. Stirling has got Russell Morgan underneath him through the apex of the corner. And Russell Morgan, was that Russell Morgan? That couldn't have been Mark Geraghty already, could it? Surely not. As they go through, it was Russell sideways Morgan. Once again, he snatches that oversteer, catches it back, and Ryan Stirling looked like he was going underneath him on the exit off the corner. As we go through the chicane left and right, that's Ryan Stirling just ahead of a rather sideways Russell Morgan. Up the back straight he goes. I can't stress just how much those guys can't see in these cars. That camera doesn't make it look any worse. That's probably what they're seeing from being out there earlier on today. Just tell you exactly how wet the track actually is. A lot of spray, a lot of grip out there though. The track surface itself is very, very grippy. As Wayne Macaulay described earlier on at the end of race number 1, comes into the hairpin. He goes through ahead of Chris Milford, and then Blair Murdoch. Behind Blair Murdoch we have got Ryan Stirling, Russell Morgan side by side with Mark Geraghty. So Geraghty is on song now, ladies and gentlemen. He goes underneath Russell Morgan up the main straight and takes a position as everybody disappears into a ball of spray. And I really like that camera angle as Blair Murdoch flexes his muscles going in towards Duffy's Dip now, and through he comes. Bit of rain on the camera lens here. There's absolutely nothing we can do about that, I'm afraid. You're just going to have to deal with that. The camera getting the rain driving into its face here as Russell Morgan comes back in towards the back of Ryan Stirling. That's actually Mark Geraghty, sorry. Mark Geraghty is out to make amends in this race. Macaulay leads as we go back on board with Russell Morgan. That looks a bit neater coming through the chicane. Up the back straight, wipers on, rain X on, one would imagine, grabbing gears, down gears, trying to pick a braking point, a turning point and an apex in these damp conditions. Very, very tricky as Russell again scrubbing off speed, unfortunately sideways into view. Looks great for us on the telly here, but he will be absolutely kicking himself inside that car, because every time you go sideways you're effectively scrubbing off the speed on board into the hairpin, down a couple of gears. Tries to turn in there, a little bit slidey on the way, and Russell looks like he really is struggling in that car, whether it's just a little bit too stiffly sprung Need to do a bit of work with the dampers. If you've got a wet rear view mirror inside, there's something very, very wrong. So I would imagine that's starting to steam up, so he wants to make sure he can see behind him. Unfortunately, that must mean he's concentrating more on what's coming up behind him than he is in front just now. So let's hope Russell can get his eye in the game as the leaders leave McIntyre's 1, 2, Milford's in 3, Stirling sideways in 4th, Geraghty in 5th just now. And then we've got Russell Morgan and Stuart Scott, those guys without their lights on as Martin Ramsey. Martin Ramsey goes sideways again. Now that's his nemesis corner because we saw him going off there in race number 1. So Ramsey doesn't leave the road this time, manages to keep the spin all the way down the main or the Duffus Dip area, keeps it on the tarmac surface. And look at that, Mark Geraghty was ahead of Ryan Stirling. So that puts Mark Geraghty, well, that put him into 4th place just now, as we see the top 3 coming through, and Geraghty having to defend from a very rapid Stirling. As Ryan said, cars fast in a straight line, just need to do a little bit of work to get it through the corners a bit more. As we come through the hairpin, Stirling jinks back to the inside. That was a racing driver's move, that was good, nice and clean. Up the main straight he goes. Does he have enough horses under the bonnet in that Fiesta ST? As they go over the crest of the hill and out of our sight, he's alongside. Who's going to be bravest on the brakes? The camera doesn't follow them, and we'll hopefully catch up with them in just a minute as they go over the crest of the hill. Oh, sideways for Russell Morgan, and round he goes. That, ladies and gentlemen, is lift-off oversteer at its absolute best, unfortunately for Russell. Now, he's been struggling from the very first lap, I would say, in the first race with the back end of that car, and it pitches him in a big spin down Duffus Dip. He's in the gravel trap. He's not too deep in the gravel trap, so we would hope he could possibly get that car out of there. But Russell, it really has been a difficult weekend. That car has looked an absolute handful to drive, and thankfully the car didn't pitch in, dig in and roll there. And we don't have a safety car on track, so that's good as well. As everybody comes in towards the hairpin, Geraghty is now a decent gap on Ryan Stirling, who's moving about a little bit in the braking area there, whether he's just having a little bit of lock-up on the front wheel and it's making the car dance about. As we look further down into the pack just now, that will be young Aidan Ward that comes through, and behind him Martin Ramsey. As we see the guys going down through Leslie's. Such are the terrible conditions that we've got here. It was forecast, unfortunately, yesterday at Knockhill. On Saturday was an absolute glorious day. Everybody had perfect dry weather testing, but everybody knew this was in the post, unfortunately. So whatever was gained yesterday in your dry testing has possibly come to nothing, as Peter Cruikshank does go through. That car looking a little bit bashed in the back quarter, but ultimately a great repair job from his guys, as through Hislops comes the defending, current and reigning champion, all rolled into one. It's Wayne Macaulay as he turns in through the hairpin, and he'll head up towards the start-finish line to chalk off another lap here. Great camera angle, I'm a big fan of that. The college guys have done a good job getting up in that banking, and basically that's what the spectators can see as well. A big raised banking at the back of the hairpin gives you a fabulous look in and out of the hairpin. As Macaulay goes over the hill, Murdoch goes over the hill, we then get Geraghty and Stirling with a gap back to Stuart Scott. So everything looking just kind of settled just now as we get the leaders coming down through the first complex here at Knockhill Racing Circuit, where we saw Russell Morgan getting caught out earlier on, and we also saw Martin Ramsey getting caught out, but those guys both back running again. Lauren Murray goes through the shot there, and is that Russell Morgan? He's got right up behind him. Either way, he's going to have to keep his wits about him as he makes a bit of a mistake going in towards McIntyre's there, and unfortunately loses his position. He's now got the Mini all over the back of him, and that's Adam Morrison. And great to see Adam here. He's entered as a guest today, he's not actually in the championship points. And was that Fiona Wallace having a bit of a giggle with Chris Milford about winning the Hot Hats Championship? Well, Chris has entered it, he's paid his money, and he's going to walk away with the title as the Hot Hats Champion. And fair play to Chris Milford. It's great having another car on the grid here. We did struggle a little bit of a couple of meetings having not enough entries, but they've got themselves up to 13 entries this weekend, which is pretty decent stuff, as Cruikshank, the most experienced man on the grid, if not in the paddock now. I'm trying to think who else could be more experienced than Peter. He's been racing since I was a very young boy, shall we say, and he's still absolutely loving it as he goes underneath Stuart Scott in towards Duffus Dip. That's a racing driver's move from Peter Cruikshank in these wet conditions. he gets it done and dusted, and that's perfect for Peter. Yeah, he'll be liking that one as he comes in towards McIntyre's. Cruikshank, who's raced Fiestas since, I think it's round about 89, maybe before that. It was the XR2 Championship back then. It went through the Waverley Press era, and it's come onto the more modern STs, and Peter even had a shot off the previous incarnation of STs, the more rounder shapes. But up the main straight goes Wayne Macaulay, car number 1, chased by Blair Murdoch in 85, and Blair all on his own just now. It's all about keeping concentration for him. Chris Milford with the most factory rain light you've ever seen in your life, flashing away up the main straight there. Either that or he's not wired up correctly as he goes over the crest of the hill ahead of Mark Geraghty, and Mark Geraghty is chasing him down. If we have a little look at the computer screens just now, fastest lap for Milford is a 67.6. Fastest lap for Geraghty is a 67.7. So last lap round though, Geraghty was actually faster than Milford. So can he catch him? Has he got enough left in the tank on that 67 Mini, Geraghty that is, to catch up with number 51 Chris Milford? As through goes, was that Stuart Scott it was, and the rest of the guys come through. Stuart Scott there, sorry, having a big moment. Quite unlike Stuart that. He had a bit of a wild meeting 2 meetings ago where he oh, and there's a yellow flag at the chicane there, waved yellow flag, so who's gone off? Stuart Scott has a big moment himself seeing that flag. So we've lost somebody halfway up that back straight, and the camera panned round to Duffy, so who have we lost? That's what we're going to have to try and pick up. Through has gone, but we know Stuart Scott's here, and we saw just ahead of Stuart Scott Peter Cruikshank going through. Is it one of the top 4? Have we lost one of the big guns? We need to wait and pick back up with our leader. That could be Wayne Macaulay. Your guess is as good as mine. That was Wayne Macaulay going through. Next should be Blair Murdoch. And into view comes Chris Milford. Where has Blair Murdoch gone? We have lost Blair because behind Chris Milford comes Mark Geraghty. So Murdoch has gone missing. That must have been the yellow flag for him halfway up that back straight. So absolute disaster here for Blair Murdoch. And where is the car? That's what we want to know. We shall come back to that if we can. But Blair Murdoch throws away what was going to be a podium position for him here. A good second place. He had nobody behind him. And possibly a little loss of concentration, just like what Stuart Scott does, and Adam Morrison flies past on the way through Butchers in the Mini. Stuart Scott runs wide, still the yellow flag being waved there at the chicane, and there will be a green flag at Clark Corner. So Blair Murdoch has gone off, or has he retired? We don't actually know, but one thing's for sure, he is no longer in the race, he's no longer running. And that puts Milford into second place in 51. Geraghty goes into third place with 67. And Ryan Stirling now in fourth place in car number 33, albeit we haven't seen him for quite some time. There goes Milford. There goes Geraghty there. And still no sign of Ryan Stirling. But look at those poor marshals sheltering in the driving rain here at McIntyre's, as through comes Chris Milford at in his second place ahead of Geraghty. Driving rain at Knockhill, October. Unfortunately, the weather forecast was absolutely spot on from Windy Wilson, as Stephen Ward and Lorne Murray both go through our shot there. And that was on the way in towards Duffy's Dip. So if we fly over to the other side of the circuit, we pick up with this man, and it's Wayne Macaulay coming in towards the hairpin in the number 1 car. He comes through. And as ever, a little bit wheel spin on the exit of the corner, but as ever, absolutely perfect racing line on the money, lap after lap, corner after corner from Wayne Macaulay. It's going to take some driver to come into this championship and try and take him on head to head with him. A few have done it. Mark Geraghty had a good shot at it in the dry, but unfortunately in these wet conditions, the problems which Mark had in race number 1 kind of put him on the back foot for race number 2, starting quite far down the grid. But we have seen flashes from Blair Murdoch as well, and we've also seen Blair Murdoch disappear from this one. So it's all about putting together a good consistent championship run, not just having a quick flash in a one meeting and being a star. Unfortunately, Blair no longer in the race, and let's hope that the car's not damaged too much and we get him back for 2019 on the grid, because one thing's for sure, he's had that winning taste now. He'll want it as Adam Morrison goes through in his Mini, and he's another very welcome addition to the grid as well. Entered as a guest. Will he come back for a full-on assault for the Hot Hatch Championship next year? bearing in mind this is year number 1 for the SMTA Fiesta and Hot Hatch Championship. The BMWs were also invited to race here, but I'm wondering if that tag might get dropped for 2019, such as we haven't really had any BMWs apart from maybe at the very first meeting of the year, as we see Stephen Ward and Lauren Murray go through a very, very wet Clark Corner as young Aidan Ward goes through as well. And we pick up with Wayne McCauley, who is now deciding to showboat, ladies and gentlemen, as he goes through McIntyre's very sideways, through Butchers and over the chicane. He knows exactly what he was doing there. It's what we call an Ollie Mortimer. Mid-race starting to have some fun as Geraghty goes through as well. And Mark will be pretty happy getting up onto the podium, although he would have wanted to be maybe a couple of steps further up. He did start right at the back of the grid with Peter Cruikshank, and he has fought his way through, and a very amiable finishing position for him as Lauren Murray spins right at the end of the race as well, and that's a spin on the exit of McIntyre's turn 3. So I'm imagining he's gone through the corner, run wide, and then shot back across the gravel trap to the inside of the circuit as Wayne McCauley comes into a very wet hairpin at Knockhill. He turns through the corner and it just sounds so good on the exit up towards the checker flag. It's going to be another cheeky double for Wayne McCauley. He takes the checker flag, a very heavy, wet, sodden checkered flag here at Knockhill Racing Circuit. Wayne McCauley wins from Chris Milford, 51 in second place, and 67. The next car to show up will be Mark Geraghty, and Mark finishes on the podium and in third. A little weave towards the flag, he'll be delighted with that one. Ryan Sterling should come home in third place. There goes Ryan, and chased hard by Peter Cruikshank up towards the line in fourth and fifth. And sixth place coming through will be the Mini of Adam Morrison, and that's a brilliant result for Adam Morrison, car number 86, coming home in sixth place. And Stephen Ward comes through in car 55. 19 will be Aidan Ward, who comes home in 8th. Lauren Murray, car number 5, who we saw having a bit of a spin, they will finish in 9th. And Russell Morgan, unfortunately, finishes down in 10th place after that fairly large, sizable spin we saw him having down at Duffy's Dip. Not classified, did not finish, Stuart Scott, Blair Murdoch and Martin Ramsey. So I'm pretty sure Fiona is going to be a little tad wet after that one. Let's hand down and find out what the drivers have got to say for some post-race interviews.
Wayne McCauley, another win. Fantastic season you've had, and you've definitely made your mark on the ST Championship.
Yeah, well, that's what we're trying to do this year, because it might be a push if I'm back next year, but we'll have a good think about that over the winter. But can't fault the car this weekend at all. The thing is on fire in the wet, so really happy with the day.
And how were the conditions out there? Quite treacherous, or was it okay from you being the front car, you've got no spray in front?
No, it was alright for the first few laps, and then the heated screen decided it was only going to have a couple of lines working, and you're kind of judging where the apexes are on the inside, but we'll go out through the rest, it was alright, I had no problems, so good, happy days.
So you're very happy with your season then?
Oh, very happy with the season, yeah.
Well, hopefully we do see you back out next year, and congratulations again.
Yeah, thank you, cheers.
That's going to be the orders again. Turn 1, Wayne McCauley, Milford and Blair Murdoch.
So this time you're on a different podium for the STs, and
Yes.
you drove up from the back of the grid.
Yes.
How was that?
Certainly better than race 1 anyway. No, we had a first corner down Duffy's, ABS fault, went straight on into gravel, got it back out again, thought, yeah, we'll give it another shot with the ABS light, and in this condition straight on the gravel again, and I think again, so I decided to come in, get the ABS fixed in race 1, and I just thought save it for race 2, so managed to fight through the field, maybe 4 or 5 cars in the first lap there, and then I noticed Blair go off, which is unfortunate for him, but picked up the pieces and kind of fought our way through. No way of catching Chris Milford or Wayne McCauley, but I'm happy to get another wee trophy and a bit of fun this weekend, so nice to finish the Fiestas off, so just now on the Minis and see what we can do there.
Are they quite different to drive, the Minis and the
The
Fiesta?
tyres, yeah, there's a new type tyre in the Minis now, and I felt in the wet it was like driving on ice. It was just really hard for me. Maybe some of the guys have been used to it this year, but I haven't driven on it, so it was kind of hard in that second race there. But no, I was used to the 8048s there, and they worked well, so I had the confidence underneath my feet, so good to get a second place in the STs.
Good, well you've got another race to go, so I'll let you go and dry off, and best of luck.
No problem, Fee, thanks.
So here was Ryan Sterling, P3 overall and second podium of the weekend. You must be delighted.
I am actually, yeah. It's turned into torrential weekend, but a really good one as well actually. I feel sorry for Blair having a spin in the kind of third last lap just before Clark Corner, but you know, hung in there in really treacherous conditions actually, just driving to rain lights, but the car went well. Dead pleased with Paul Curtis and the guys as well. The car's awesome at straight line speed. Made a tweak to the setup as I did from the last race, and it paid off. So really pleased.
We're going to see you back out next year.
I'm in the process of trying to work out a budget for next year. So no holidays planned at the moment. Kids are on baked beans, and yeah, I'll be back out next year, some description. So that's good.
Good. Well, hopefully we do see you back out, and congratulations again.
Thank you. Excellent. Thanks so much. Cheers. Cheers, guys.
So Chris Milford, you're P2 overall.
Yes.
And are you glad to be back?
Yeah, glad to be back. I mean, that race was tricky. The visibility was really bad behind Wayne, and then I managed to get Blair at the start, but he got by again. Yeah, it's really tricky conditions. There was some grip somewhere, some grip in other places, and suddenly it would go because of the water getting there. But just glad to be back and racing again, and now it's the off season. We've got to wait till the start of next season again, haven't we? So never mind.
Have you got any plans for 2019?
None as such, but I'm looking. Trying to sell myself there. No plans just now. So yeah, all good.
Well, it's good to have you back out, and hopefully we do see you out on the grid again in 2019.
Yeah, that'd be good fun. All right, see you there.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
So the 2018 season has drawn to a close for the Scottish Fiesta and Hot Hatch Championship. Hope you've enjoyed the coverage and look forward to seeing you again in 2019 for more action-packed racing.